Well, Minister, friends in Scotland and Malawi, good morning. A very warm welcome to this Scotland-Malawi Partnership meeting with Iain Stewart MP, the Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State for Scotland, the UK Government's Minister for Scotland. We're grateful to you, Minister, for taking the time to meet, and to colleagues in your office for hosting us, ensuring that we are all entirely safe and COVID compliant. We're sanitised, we're observing distancing and wearing masks when not seated here as we are in Edinburgh, in Queen Elizabeth House, home of the UK Government in Scotland. This is the first time in 14 months that we've been able to have a face-to-face element to a meeting with some physical gathering around the table. The only silver lining of lockdown is that by working digitally, hand in virtual hand with our sister organisation, the Malawi-Scotland Partnership, our activities have had much greater Malawian participation. We're thrilled that you are joining us from different parts of Malawi, Scotland and elsewhere today. And whether you're taking part online or here in person, it's equally great to have you, and your active participation is equally encouraged. My name's Stuart Brown. I'm the Deputy Chief Executive of the Scotland-Malawi Partnership. Our CEO, David Hope-Jones, sends his apologies, but was last night called to a minor but urgent surgical operation this morning. We know from David that it's not something to worry about. Our thoughts are with David, and we know that he'll be back leading us very soon. As friends in Malawi will know, Scotland is still part of the United Kingdom, but under devolution since 1999, the Scottish Parliament has had the power to make laws on a wide range of issues. These are known as devolved matters. Some issues are the responsibility of the UK Parliament. These are known as reserved matters. The Office of the Secretary of State for Scotland is the UK Government department representing Scotland. It acts as the custodian of the Scottish devolution settlement, represents Scottish interests within the UK, and advocates for the UK Government's policies in Scotland. In a few minutes, I'll invite Minister Stewart to tell us about his work and priorities. We have about an hour together, and there are perhaps 5 things we want to achieve. These are to listen to the Minister's priorities and interest in engaging with civic society, to share a flavour of the breadth and depth of members' activities, and give a sense of what the Scotland-Malawi Partnership, or SMP, is and does. We want to have open Q&A and discussion time on any topics that participants and the Minister would like to raise. To be open and direct about the scale of concern in Scotland about and opposition to the UK Government's cuts to aid and research budgets. And finally, explore next steps for constructive collaboration with Minister Stewart and the Office of the Secretary of State for Scotland. A few brief points of housekeeping. There are no fire drills that we know of planned, so if the alarm goes off too, please follow the guidance of staff here in the Scotland office. This meeting is being recorded, and we take your continuing participation as consent to feature in the video. We'll email you a link to the video by the end of the week. My colleague Craig, who's hosting the Zoom tech today, does a brilliant job time-stamping the video, which goes up online on YouTube with a contents list, enabling everybody to find specific sections quickly. If you are watching the recording of this event now, effectively a person from the future, you'll know that you'll already know that, and you too are most welcome. We'd ask everybody please to remain on mute until invited to speak, and then unmute yourself by clicking the microphone button such that the digital diagonal stripe disappears. Do please make your own judgment as to whether you'd like to have your video on. I see that some people have and some people haven't. You just choose based on your experience of your bandwidth and stability. If you're taking part this morning by Zoom, please make good use of the chat function, as I see some of you are already, which is brilliant. We'd really encourage you to put questions, comments, and relevant hyperlinks into the chat box, and we'll cover as much of this as we can in the Q&A time. But if there isn't time to verbalise the point, the existence of this in the chat function will mean that it's part of the record of the meeting. If you exchange any direct messages with individuals as opposed to sharing things with everybody, do please record these yourself, as they won't be included in what we send. If you're 18 or over and would like to share your email address, please feel welcome to do this in the chat box, remembering that it will be made public. There's no pressure to do that. If you use social media, you're welcome to tweet throughout the meeting and use other platforms. On Twitter, the UK government in Scotland is at UKGovScotland. The Scotland-Malawi Partnership's Twitter handle is at Scotland-Malawi, and hashtags, as appropriate, are hashtag Scotland-Malawi Partnership and hashtag ScotMalawi Youth. We're delighted that several of our youth members are with us today. So again, that's at ScotMalawi Youth. With time in mind, the agenda and summary is opening remarks from the Minister, a quick overview of the Scotland-Malawi relationship from me, 3 micro case studies from members, questions from the Minister, open question time and discussion for all, and then finally a brief summary of next steps. So again, please do feel welcome to put questions and comments into the chat function anytime from now. So to business. Iain Stewart was appointed as Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State in the Scotland Office in June 2020. Minister, a very warm welcome to address the meeting.
Thank you very much, Stuart. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Hello down to the far end of the table. But I actually am delighted that we are able, for many of us, to be meeting in person. Because Zoom and Teams and the other technologies are great to a point, but I really don't think anything beats the personal interaction and the ability to have a chat. And Susan's already presented me with a wonderful book, which would not have been possible on a Zoom channel. And I've got a long train journey later today, so that would be my reading material. I just want to say, first of all, a little bit of my background and my role here and the function of the Scotland Office. But I'll keep my remarks relatively brief because I really want to hear more from you and learn more about the partnership and the various projects and issues that are of interest to you. I should go right back to my early years. I've a good connection with Malawi because I was born and brought up in Hamilton, literally 2 or 3 miles from Blantyre. And I remember at primary school, one of our first school visits was to the David Livingstone Centre there. So I can't remember exactly how old I was, but probably no more than 6 or 7 at the time. And you often have visits and experiences in childhood that stick with you. And that is one that was always in my mind and has always resonated with me. So I can't say I visited Blantyre in Malawi. One day I very much hope to be able to do so. I imagine the climate is somewhat different to South Lanarkshire. But those historic connections are very important. And today, as I say, I really want to hear from you about the work of the partnership and the issues that you want to raise. And you certainly have a commitment from me to, as long as I'm in office and beyond, to keep up that interest and do what I can to help further your points in government more widely. Just a little bit of background as to where we are meeting today. This is Queen Elizabeth House. This is a new UK government office in Edinburgh. I hasten to add that it's not the Secretary of State for Scotland and my office in Edinburgh. It is the home of UK government. And we have here lots of, well, rephrase slightly, in normal times, we would have here lots of different UK government departments. Obviously, with COVID, there's more remote working going on. But I raise that because here we will have lots of different departments that potentially are of interest to the partnership. So, for example, we will have a team from the international trade department. So whether it's a Scottish-based company wanting to deepen its trading links with Malawi, or in reverse, there will be people here who will be able to help facilitate that. So what I would like, one of the things for you to take away today is that we will, across UK government, not just the Scotland office, very much look forward to working with you. And if there are particular areas of policy that you think the different teams can assist you with, please don't hesitate to ask. This is a resource that we very much want to use as widely as possible. And I'm, we can discuss all the specific issues, but my view of where we are now as we emerge from COVID and all the challenges that that's posed, I want Scotland and the UK as a whole to be globally facing, outward looking, deepening the different partnerships we have at all levels, be that economic, education, health, everything. And through partnerships and forums like this, we can develop those and share those. And you will find in me someone who's always willing to, to actively engage in that. So as I said, I want to keep my remarks relatively concise at this point, because my main role here today is to hear from you and learn more about your work and priorities. So thank you all for your time today, and I look forward to our discussion coming period. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Thank you very much, Minister. Brilliant to hear that you have that early connection with Blantyre, and you may be aware that after very significant renovation, the David Livingstone Museum will be reopening in June, and they have been revisiting and rethinking Livingstone's legacy and impact, and we've been delighted to be partnering in part of that. So I'm sure that you will find it an extremely interesting visit when you get to return. Apologies that we have some technical issues here in that my laptop's not projecting onto the big screen. So those in the room will have to rely on my dulcet tones, I'm afraid. Those who are on Zoom will hopefully be able to get things in beautiful Technicolor as well. So my colleague Craig is ably screen sharing for Zoom participants. So the history we all know started with David Livingstone. President Kamuzu Banda was proud to have been trained in Edinburgh. Lord McConnell was key in re-energising the relationship, signing the Intergovernmental Cooperation Agreement in 2005, re-energised again in 2018 with the new First Minister and new President. We've been funded by successive Scottish governments, but are independent of government and politically neutral. We provide the Secretariat to the Scottish Parliament's cross-party group on Malawi and the Westminster all-party Parliamentary group on Malawi. And we're delighted that all of the main parties in Scotland expressed commitment in their manifestos to the relationship between Scotland and Malawi. Minister, some stats firstly from the University of Edinburgh in 2018 reflecting the scale of involvement in and impact of the bilateral relationship. The combined time, effort, goods and involvement of Scotland's relationship with Malawi totals £50 million, but also notably the fact that people of both countries benefit from the relationship, around 250,000 people in Scotland and 2.9 million people in Malawi. Moving to University of Glasgow research of the same year and highlighting two remarkable figures, I think 46% of people in Scotland can name a friend or family member with a connection to Malawi, and 74% of those surveyed are in favour of Scotland's links with Malawi, a strong majority, I'm sure you would agree, and notably not a fringe group of people employed by NGOs, but indicative of the groundswell of support across the warp and weft of Scottish society. Much has been written about the bilateral relationship Everybody involved will have their own personal take, but perhaps the key elements are that it's a people-to-people relationship. It boils down to friendship, mutual respect and affection. Secondly, as the numbers I just mentioned bear out, it has a great capacity to mobilise civic society. Very relevant to this morning's discussion, the synergies between government and people, and delighted to hear about your commitments and your wish to open doors to other departments. Thank you very much for that. How do all of these civic society links fit with what the British government, the Scottish government, the Malawian government are planning? We've had really constructive conversations recently with the British High Commissioner in Malawi, Dave Beer, FCDO's Malawi Development Director, Fiona Ritchie, as we've had with their predecessors in the High Commission with DFID, the FCO and the Scotland Office. Just yesterday, we heard from Dr. Thomas Mutali, the Director General of Malawi's National Planning Commission, about the Government of Malawi's far-sighted policy, Malawi Vision 2063, enabling us to learn more about Malawi's priorities and discover how best we can work within and towards these. And finally, crucially, that both countries benefit. We are a network of 1,200 key individuals and organisations, including 140 NGOs, household names amongst them, as well as many smaller locally based charities. Around 50 businesses are involved, around 250 inspiring youth and school partnerships supported by my brilliant colleague, Louisa Brown, who leads our work in this area. We're thrilled that Rachel Cameron from our youth committee will speak to us shortly this morning. Were David with us this morning, he'd express his excitement that the average age demographic of those involved with the SNP has got younger over the 13 years in which he's been with the SNP, and the rest of us have got older. Almost all of Scotland's universities are members, many really active faith groups, hospitals, health-based organisations, half of Scotland's local authorities, 30 national and professional organisations such as the Colleges of Medicine, National Museum, National Libraries of Scotland, and a fantastic 300 plus youth ambassadors and 300 community champions. So again, not a fringe interest group, but very much the people of Scotland. We are one side of the same coin with our sister organisation, the Malawi Scotland Partnership, MASP, with whom we work very closely and regularly co-host events. Its chair is Dr. Ann Poya and CEO Stella Masangano. Our chair, Professor Heather Kuby, is with us this morning, as are some other of our board members. And our members include the important cohort of members of the Malawian diaspora in Scotland, some of whom are with us today. The Scotland-Malawi Partnership is a member network that exists to support, connect and represent the many people and organisations in Scotland with these dignified people-to-people links with Malawi. In normal times, we are all about connecting and sharing learning amongst our members. We host forums to share lessons learned and promote highly valued networking and encourage collaboration. We share members' info, asks and offers of support in our weekly bulletin, produced by my fabulous colleague Jade, who also leads on our social media. Our recent youth festival had very significant successes, which I'll leave Rachel to tell us about. Thanks to the work of Rachel, our youth committee members, Louisa and colleagues at MASP. On average, perhaps surprisingly, there's a positive press article about Scotland and Malawi's links every couple of days. We work closely with the Scottish, Malawian and UK parliaments and represent members' interests on matters such as the 2020 Scottish Government Review of International Development. We were delighted that the UK Immigration Minister accepted many of the points made by the cross-party groups that made recommendations on visas. Minister, representing over 100,000 individuals and organisations doing vital work with and in Malawi, it will come as no surprise to you that we remain hugely disappointed that the UK government reneged on its commitment to invest 0.7% of GNI on international development aid and research, despite the repeated written assurances we received from the UK government that this would not happen and an explicit manifesto promise. The Prime Minister, the Secretary of State for Scotland and the Africa Minister all gave commitments to maintaining 0.7%, each highlighting that it's enshrined in law, right, and services the national interest. Whilst we understand the unprecedented financial pressures the country is under, other G7 countries have actually increased their ODA. The United States by 5%, France by about 11%, Germany by about 13%. And we see the UK's decision as political rather than economic for two reasons. First, this cut of around £4 billion a year to aid and research was announced whilst increasing military expenditure by around £4 billion. Second, unlike almost all other government budgets, the aid commitment is a percentage of GNI rather than a fixed figure. So as the economy shrinks, so too does the investment in aid. Since the pandemic started, UK aid has already shrunk because of the contracting UK economy and because of disruption caused to many projects due to COVID. To then cut aid further, we see as a moral failure, which impacts the poorest and most marginalised in the immediate term, and as much of UK aid contributes to infrastructure, also in the long term. In COVID times, we've extended our year of governance strengthening throughout 2021. We're thrilled that Malawi was named Country of the Year by The Economist. We've supported the development of and been on the executive of the Malawi Business Group, initiated by Malawi's High Commissioner in the UK, and there are discussions about moving that to a full Chamber of Commerce. The President of Malawi set us 3 challenges at our AGM in October 2020. These were and are to grow those involved in the Scotland-Malawi relationship from around 300,000 to 500,000. Further, to be a major high-level conference in Scotland within 5 years to look at the future of the bilateral relationship. And finally, on climate cooperation, particularly how do we work together on COP26 in Glasgow? I'm sure an issue of great interest to the British government. Black Lives Matter remains an important issue for us, and we're listening to the Global South, to young people and to other innovative thought leaders to help build back better. And in turn, we are sharing the partnership principles co-designed between Scotland and Malawi, which underpin all of our work. Throughout 2020, MASP and we co-hosted a dozen COVID-19 Zoom coordination meetings. Just after Christmas, when the South African variant of the virus hit Malawi, the Scotland-Malawi Oxygen Supply Coordination Group raised over £20,000 for desperately needed oxygen. And we continue to highlight the need for access to vaccines to be made in Malawi, and are working with MASP to counter misinformation about vaccines which exist in Malawi as it does in Scotland and the UK. So I hope that gives you a sense, Minister, of something of the relationship. We'd like to turn now to some case studies. So with 1,200 members and limited time, we can only give you a flavour of how members experience their relationship with Malawi and the importance of their work. I wonder, slightly shooting in the dark here, but Dr. Tracy Morse, I wonder if you are on the line and with us.
Hi, Stuart. Yes, I'm here.
That's great news. Would you like to go ahead, please? I think 2 or 3 minutes, if you would.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Sorry not able to join you in Edinburgh today, but thanks for the chance to share a little bit of the work that we're doing and really to give you a flavour of the higher education perspective. We'll give you a bit of a whistle-stop tour of what Strathclyde University's history of collaboration in Malawi. So we're very proud of our range of interdisciplinary work that comes from across the university with our different partners. Our focus is very much on equitable partnership, and that's clear from the fact that many of our collaborations have been in place for over 20 years now. We think a lot of that is aided by the fact that our collaborations are focused very much on what Malawi wants and their Malawi-driven priorities. And of course, we want to help wherever possible for Malawi to attain the UN SDGs, and particularly embedded in our work is the principle of leaving no one behind and working with the most vulnerable in society. I want to just touch upon 4 key areas that our different cross-sectoral approaches have worked on over the last few years, not only with our fellow academics, but also with government and the beneficiaries themselves, and of course, other actors such as NGOs as well. So firstly, in health, our work focuses primarily on environmental and community health, so preventive health. And we've led a number of successful community health, hygiene and sanitation programmes, which of course have been more important than ever in the current COVID pandemic. And those have gone on to inform several national strategies and programmes. We also have a strong programme in renewable energy, where we led the Malawi Renewable Energy Acceleration Programme and supported the development of the Malawi Renewable Energy Strategy. And most recently, we've developed and currently evaluating the first of its kind smart solar PV microgrid in partnership with United Purpose and the University of Malawi. In the water sector, for several years, we've led the Climate Justice Programme hand in hand with the Malawi government. And of course, for us being an educational institution in education, we've developed a range of undergraduate and postgraduate programmes with our academic partners, including primary education and environmental health. And very central to everything we do is building capacity with our colleagues in terms of research and providing support and scholarships as well to undergraduates. Our engagements and partnerships, and those of other Scottish universities on the call today as well, have really real and significant impact. And as Stuart said, a lot of the funding from that, a significant amount of the funding for that has come through UKRI and FCDO funds. And I'm sure, as with everyone else today, we have significant concerns that just when we're starting to make some progress in a lot of the areas we work in, we're going to now suffer from severe setbacks due to the ODA budget cuts. So we look forward to hearing more about that and hopefully get a chance to meet you in person in the future to talk about these in more detail. Thanks, Stuart.
Super, Tracy, thanks very much indeed. Graeme Little from Mary's Meals, I wonder if you'd like to present, please.
Yeah, thank you. So Graeme Little, the Director of Programmes at Mary's Meals. Mary's Meals provides life-changing daily meals to some of the world's poorest children in their place of education. And in turn, that increases the enrolment and attendance and provides a strong foundation for many more children to concentrate on their studies and grow up to be the women and men who can lift themselves and their communities out of poverty. Today, we're reaching over 1.8 million children across 19 countries. As far as Malawi is concerned, we began our work in Malawi in 2002, serving 200 children initially, but now reaching over 1 million children, specifically within Malawi across southern, central and north, particularly focused in the south. Our programmes are very much community-owned projects. We recognise a massive contribution of tens of thousands of volunteers from the communities that we serve within Mary's Meals programme, and that's what really enables us to work at the scale we do. We've had UK and Scottish government grants over a number of years, and that support and that cooperation from both have really helped us greatly to make our work possible at the scale that we've reached. We certainly want to continue that and also to continue to develop deep strategic relationships with the government of Malawi, given the scale and the impact, and also to support that long-term roadmap for school feeding and the knock-on impact and benefits of that in line with the Malawi Vision 2063. Conscious also of time and a little bit of a whistle-stop tour, but maybe just finish on a little bit on impact of the work. We recently completed a 5-year impact assessment, and after 1 year of receiving Mary's Meals in Malawi, children were 29 times more likely to never feel hungry at school, again enabling that concentration. And 99% of children reported having some or lots of energy after eating Mary's Meals. And in terms of gender parity, girls were just as likely as boys to have reduced hunger and increased energy, and this was sustained over that 5-year period also. And then lastly, maybe just putting in the COVID context, we were able to flex our programme model over the last 15 or 16 months, continue to reach all the children within the programme through community distribution of take-home rations. And again, did some impact work around there where 95% of households reported a reduction in hunger after receiving those take-home rations. and 93% of households reported that daily school meal was an important factor in their decision to send children back to school as they reopened.
Graeme, thanks very much indeed. Incredibly important work there for the Minister and all of us to hear about. Our last and by no means least case study is from Rachel Cameron, who's a member of our youth committee. Rachel, are you on Zoom, or you are? Fantastic. That's great stuff. Brilliant. Over to you, Rachel.
So our youth committee represent the youth voice and the youth membership of the Scotland-Malawi partnership. Our youth membership currently has over 400 members, and we are continuing to grow. We've just posted out an advertisement video as well. We're really trying to up and get as many youth members as we can joining us. We've done that on our youth Instagram. So our youth Instagram has been active for about 3 months now. And in that time, we have over 173 followers, which is really impressive in the short amount of time that we have that. So I run and I create all of the content for that account, and the youth committee contribute as well. And so by having this account, this is the first chance really that we've had to be able to connect directly with the youth membership and other organisations that are interested in connecting with us and seeing what the youth membership is doing, and also what the youth committee are doing as well. So yeah, it means that they can connect with us directly whenever they want. We are able to engage with them as well and find out what is interesting the young people and what they want to hear about. And they can tell us that, and then we can work with them together to do all of that. One of the ways that our youth Instagram was really effective was during our youth festival, which was held in March. So our youth festival was held virtually due to COVID. We couldn't meet in person. The event was week-long, and our youth committee worked directly with young people in Malawi as well to create 3 webinars and 3 podcasts. So our podcasts and webinars, we had one on climate change, one on climate justice, and one on race and equality. And all of these events we broadcasted live on Facebook, and all of our webinars we did them on Zoom, and we recorded it, so you can go back and watch them, and you can also listen to the podcast on Spotify. Yeah, so each of them had a Malawi host and a Scottish host, and they were recorded in real time. And these topics, as I'm sure you're aware, are really relevant to young people at the moment. They're really trying to make changes in that, and it was really incredible to be able to do all of that and also work with other countries, well, not other countries, Malawi, and see how their views and their thoughts on it. And going forward, we can now work together and do more on that. As well as having the podcast and the webinars, we also had competitions online. So we launched for Scots, Malawians, challenge Scots to a Shabobo dance challenge and a Chichewa challenge as well. And then from Scotland, we sent young Malawians a Highland dance challenge and a Gaelic challenge. And the reason that we kind of did that was it allowed the other country to have a better understanding of each other's culture. We got quite a few entries, and they were all really, really good. And our youth festival as well, throughout the whole week, managed to get a reach of a quarter of a million people, which,
just so it creates
as far as I've been on the youth committee, which means since September 2018, is the most successful event we've ever had. And the fact we were able to do that virtually as well is really incredible. And we did that all through our social media and also through our events that we held as well. And going forward, we're just really trying to do more and connect directly with young people and hearing what they want to do. Thank you.
Fabulous, Rachel. Thank you so much. Rachel worked incredibly hard, and is one of the main reasons that we reached 250,000 people online and through social media. So all credit to you, Rachel, and to the members of the Youth Committee, and to my colleague Louisa. I'm hoping, friends on Zoom, that a locked off shot on my laptop of the Minister is visible for you, and that's going to be preferable to me turning the laptop back and forward and rustling my papers and so on. So there we are. It's brilliant to be able to experience this hybrid situation of seeing people physically again, and also to have again so much digital participation. So we come now to the point in our agenda, Minister, for you to put any questions or make any comments to anybody in the room or online.
Great. Well, thank you to all three of you for those presentations. Really interesting to hear all your work. Rachel, this sounds fantastic. You know, the most challenging of circumstances to have such a rich programme. Absolutely applaud you for that. I'd love to see some of the Highland dancing and Gaelic lessons. And you know, it's that exchange of cultures and learning about each other's traditions and is so important. And breaking down any barriers or any problems or misunderstandings about what we're all about. I represent a very diverse constituency, lots of different communities and religions. And one of the great joys of my role as a constituency MP is being able to experience all those different traditions and cultures and realise there's far more that unites us than divides us. And anything we can do to deepen that understanding and enjoy each other's experiences, absolutely applaud that. Just one point I would make, touching on your ambitions and also Tracy at Strathclyde. One of the new policies that the government has is the Turing scheme, which is the successor to the Erasmus exchange programme for students. And why I think it's particularly relevant here is that the Erasmus scheme is largely confined to Europe, but the Turing scope is global. So what I would encourage you to do, and I'm happy to explore this in a further meeting, is look at how this organisation and your sister ones can look at that to having different types of exchange trips. Particularly for young people. I'm conscious that students now are lifelong, but particularly young people to take advantage of that. It's in its very early stages of being developed, but I just put that on the table and for you to consider and say if I can help, liaise with the education ministers to see how you might take advantage of that. I'd be very happy to do that. And thank you, Tracy, as well for the invitation to come and to meet you at Strathclyde. Very happy to take you up on that offer. Thankfully, now I'm able to do more physical visits. I would very much welcome that. Just touching on, I appreciate the great concerns people have about the overseas aid budget, and I don't want to sort of revisit the sort of background to that. But what I'd make a few observations. One is it's not permanent. We do want to get back to the 0.7% as soon as possible. It's something that I personally support. I remember the debates we had back in, forgive me if I get the year wrong, it was 2013, 2014, when the legislation was going through Parliament. I got a lot of criticism saying, why are we prioritising overseas aid when there are so many priority programmes at home that we should be spending on instead? And I absolutely get and support the arguments in favour of doing it. We have had unforeseen and unprecedented shock to the country's financial position. I'm hoping, and there are some early signs, that the economic bounce back will be better and faster than we dared hope. That remains to be seen, but I'm hoping that will allow us to revisit this sooner rather than later. We will have a spending review later this year, looking at public spending in the round. We had hoped to do that last autumn, and set a spending framework for the rest of the Parliament, but for obvious reasons that was not possible. We did it on a one-year basis, but we will be looking this autumn to looking at a sort of medium to long-term strategy. The value of these meetings is that it allows me to feed into that debate and underline the importance of these programmes. So I'm looking forward to an ongoing dialogue. I would also say that, there, in terms of the research and development funding, overall we are significantly increasing that amount. It may not all go through the ODA programme, but there will be other investments which will be complementary to it. So, for example, I know that here in Edinburgh, the university is looking at a really exciting, ambitious programme of merging parts of its human health and human medicine, rather, and veterinary science faculties to help better anticipate any future COVID-like outbreaks and how they could be nipped in the bud and not be spread. So that's funding which will be of global significance when the funding happens, although it's not specifically channeled through the ODA programme. So I just, I want to make that slightly broader point, but I say you don't need to convince me of the value of ODA spending, and it's something I've always defended and want us to get back to that point as soon as we can. So I've scribbled some notes down here. COP26, absolutely. That was one of the three challenges. I think I signed off something yesterday about a further meeting with you to look at the COP summit in Glasgow in particular. Very happy to do that. I think that's going to be, it is a great opportunity for Scotland and the UK to show global leadership on this. And I'm particularly keen to get the input from younger people on that. So Rachel, if you want to have a separate conversation as well, to capture the thoughts of your community, to feed into that, we're very happy to do that virtually or physically as is appropriate. So that absolutely want to do that. Couple of questions, if I may. You referred to the sort of uptake of vaccines in Malawi. It'd be interesting to hear just a little bit more about what the challenges are there. Is there a cultural resistance to people being vaccinated, or is it more of a sort of supply and logistics issue? I'd just be interested to get a bit more detail on that. And sorry, I can't read my own notes. I think I'll pause there so we can open it up to Q&As.
Thank you.
But those are my observations on what we've heard today thus far.
Thank you very much indeed, Minister. That's all very encouraging. Tremendous to hear of your personal commitment to return to 0.7% ODA as soon as possible, and representing Scotland's views, as you say, that you're able to feed in. I wonder to what extent your own commitment to it would be shared by your cabinet colleagues around the table.
Well, thank you for elevating me to the cabinet. I don't quite at that level. There will be a live debate. It's a little early for that round to start, but normally these events happen in November. Well, certainly the autumn, although in government terms the autumn can stretch from September through to March sometimes. But as we get there and we have a clearer picture of what the fiscal position is, how quickly the economy is responding, probably after the summer, that's when the discussions will start in earnest about what shape the budget will have. But I say it's something I hope we can return to at an early opportunity. And so the value of these sort of meetings is that I can feed in real life examples of what it means. And very much it's in the spend to save category. You know, a little bit of expenditure early will deliver benefits down the road.
Well, we'd be very happy to feed in as many examples in whatever format you'd like of case studies that would add ammunition to the argument. So perhaps we can keep in touch about that. We'd be very keen also to take up your offer of youth involvement in COVID. Our youth committee and Louise are already doing some sector leading work in Scotland on that, working very closely with MASP and with the Scottish Government funded Malawi climate leaders. And we've been collecting with Louisa's leadership COP26 voices, short videos with people in Malawi and Scotland speaking about the issues with climate in their area and what they're doing about it, and what their call, in fact, to leaders at COP26 would be. I wonder who would like to follow up in responding to the Minister's question about vaccine uptake in Malawi. I'm going to have to turn my screen around, I think, to see if there are any expressions of interest from colleagues online. I wonder if you could either put up a digital hand or wave furiously at the screen. That would be great. Otherwise, I'm just going to start making stuff up until somebody corrects me.
Can I?
Please.
Yeah, I'm
Susan.
not a health expert, I have to underline that. But from conversations with people in Malawi, the first AstraZeneca drop of vaccine went reasonably well, but there is definite vaccine hesitancy, particularly in the rural areas, and it's fueled by, as it is here, with rumours on social media, but then they spread much wider, about fertility impact on women. Again, I'm not a health expert, but Malawi has had very good vaccine programs for children. I mean, brilliant work. But as far as I know, not a national one for adults. So it's a completely different thing, vaccinating children, because people will take their kids, than actually the adults getting the vaccines themselves. So at the moment, vaccines seem to have been focused mostly in the urban areas. 85% of the population live in the rural areas. So, and that is, and so there needs to be huge public health messaging, which of course David Beer and Fiona Rich and people in Lilongwe will know far better than that. And also vaccines need to get there. But the key thing is public health, convincing people that this is not going to leave them sterile or kill them. It's going to, and because the numbers are dropping down, or dropping off, then it's more difficult to convince people that you need. But we need to get vaccines to all the low-income countries.
Just wanting to add to that as well. Like Susan, I'm not expert as well, and certainly what I'm about to say is what I've been hearing certainly from my friends and from my family back home. There's as well been sort of like the vaccine rollout has faced an issue when it comes to the AstraZeneca being provided in Malawi, because there were issues around young people taking that vaccine, and because of the issues that like here that like were associated with the vaccine, and because in Malawi it wasn't like here that it was just like everyone, it wasn't about age, so everyone could just go and get the vaccine. And now when the news came out that like young people, it's not really advised that they should take that vaccine, they seem to have been a resentment from a lot of people that maybe they've taken that vaccine, and because of that, I'm sure as well, because of that, there's been a lot of young people that I know across Malawi that are not willing to get vaccinated, and I feel like as well maybe because Malawi is kind of like the vaccine that is being rolled out in Malawi, it's being donated to Malawi. I feel like maybe as well there was like a wider or a selection of different vaccines being given to Malawi, maybe perhaps the alternatives, just like here, that like maybe the alternatives that being given to Malawi, that was as well being given to Malawi. So I feel like it would change the situation there.
I was going to ask, is AstraZeneca the only vaccine available?
As far as I know, yes.
And it was because South Africa stopped using the AstraZeneca because because of the blood clot threat and because it wasn't supposed to work as well against the South African variant, which is not the case, I think. But yeah, it's public health messaging as much as resources.
Well, I speak as someone who's had the AstraZeneca, although I feel most qualified and young category. Oh. So I probably talked for far too long.
No, well, we started slightly late, but we very much appreciate your time, Minister. To everybody in the room and on Zoom who have put comments or questions into the chat function, we will forward these to the Minister and invite responses. And I see the Minister nodding vigorously, which is much appreciated.
And also, I've been very happy to have a follow-up at some point, virtually or physically again, as soon as diaries allow.
Super. We'll be very.
I've really enjoyed this discussion, and I'd like to continue.
Thank you. Well, we'll be very keen to take you up on that, and I've noted your commitment to personal interaction, to chat, to keep dialogue open. To open doors with other government and departments that you want to be globally facing, that you're personally committed to return to 0.7% ODA as soon as that's possible. You've mentioned introductions around the successor to Erasmus, the Turing programme, plans to visit Dr. Tracy Morse in Strathclyde, and perhaps we could collect a list of any other members that would be interested in hosting the Minister's nodding, and that you're especially keen to involve young people in COP26. So we'll definitely follow up and set another meeting date. So thank you very much indeed for your time and openness.
Thank you everyone for just already got longer to proper chat. One-to-one basis. So hopefully this will be the first of many meetings.
Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to everyone virtually as well.
That's quite all right. It'll just give a flavour of the challenges facing the country, but also the hope. It's fantastic.
Friends on Zoom, you'll see that Craig has popped up our traditional questionnaire and survey. If you'd kindly answer the two questions, that would be much appreciated. If anybody would like to stay on, the Minister will be going, but if there's any follow-up points that anybody would like to discuss or just have some networking, then please feel very welcome to do that.